Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Animel. I am Mel, the host of this channel, and if you haven't been here before, I am your friendly millennial, here to guide you through the vast universe of anime and manga. Today we're talking about the hype of the World Cup, but not just the World Cup, Bluelock. Bluelock is an anime that was released this fall with a host of a bunch of other anime like Bleach and Chainsaw Man, so it's been a very hype season overall, or time of year, for just amazing anime. But Bluelock was amazingly timed as the World Cup is currently going on right now. So it coincides very nicely, which I think gives more hype and motivation to the amazing performance that we've seen of many teams, but more specifically, Japan's team in this World Cup. They were recently knocked out in round of 16, sadly, but their performance was admirable and amazing. I would have to say that in the many years of World Cup that I've seen, side notes, I am also a huge fan of soccer, or football, whatever you call it, and I've definitely seen Japan play in multitudes of World Cups. So when I say that this is probably the best performance I've seen and progression of Japanese national football, it's freaking stellar. And I have to say that it gives way to start theorizing whether Bluelock is real or not. Now, if you're watching Bluelock right now, you must be thinking that I am absolutely crazy for saying that, but I will dive into some reasons why. But before we dive into why I think the Bluelock is real, or rather why theorizing why it could be real or not, some fun facts and tidbits about the Japanese team, this World Cup, and the jerseys. So right now, the Japanese national men's team jerseys are completely kind of sold out. I went to go check their website. Not that I was thinking about buying a jersey. Actually, I don't know, maybe I'll go buy a jersey later. I couldn't find any in my size. So like all the very popular sizes like small, medium, extra small, I think large as well, are completely sold out for the Japanese men's national team on Adidas website at this time. And on top of that, it should be noteworthy that the jersey was created in collaboration with two mangaka, one of them being the illustrator for Bluelock. So very fun stuff there, and I think that the release of Bluelock being around the same time as the World Cup has given way to a lot of motivation perhaps to the Japanese team, especially since they're wearing a jersey that was created in collaboration with the illustrator of Bluelock. But if you haven't seen Bluelock before, Bluelock is basically a dystopian type of soccer anime that contrasts a lot of sports animes. As you may know, soccer is a team sport, but Bluelock kind of spins the concept of a team sport on its head and basically dictates it as it's every man for himself. As the main point of the storyline so far, based on the few episodes of the anime, I don't really read the manga, so I can't speak from experience in that nature, but with the anime, from what I've seen so far, it is mostly stemmed around feeding the ego of a striker and being more selfish and self-centered in order for you to become one of the best or the most successful striker in the world. And this whole project essentially includes 300 high school Japanese students and soccer players who are recruited to essentially become the next #1 striker for the Japanese national team. And I should note that the storyline, some more fun facts, is it starts like in 2018, and 2018 is when the last Men's World Cup was held in Russia. And similar situation, they were knocked out in round of 16, but I do have to say that their performance was a little lacklustering in the previous World Cup. I had never seen as much intensity from the Japanese team, especially with the way that they defeated big European national teams that have won World Cups before, like Germany and Spain. But yeah, back to the story itself. So essentially, our main character, Yoichi Sagi, is in this pool of characters and students and soccer players, and it's kind of like a survival of the fittest sort of situation where they have to fight or play through the rankings in order to become #1 striker on the Japanese team for the next World Cup, which is 2022, which is the year that we're in now. So everything kind of coincides very nicely, very perfectly, hence more reasons why people have been tweeting about the Blue Lock being real, even if it's a joke. I'm indulging it. So we're diving into this. As an avid soccer fan, the speculation, or rather controversies that I've read either on Reddit or Twitter, or articles from certain people who have either already read the manga and its early stages of the manga, or started watching Blue Lock, have highly suspected that it's not realistic. Well, I just want to preface that, newsflash, it's an anime, it's not realistic, because if you're going to come out here and tell me that Blue Lock needs to be more realistic, then like, where are we at with Naruto, or like One Piece, or like Bleach, or Chainsaw Man? Any of these, they're very, 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 very unrealistic. But I understand where people are coming from, considering the fact that soccer is a real sport, and with a lot of sports anime, there's a lot of knowledge that goes into the anime or the manga, and a lot of research, or there's experience perhaps from the mangaka, like with Haikyuu. The creator of Haikyuu used to play volleyball, I believe, or was an avid fan of volleyball, one of the two. And so he had a lot of knowledge on the creation of the manga and the show. So some people are very skeptical about, Blue Lock itself, considering it's a sports anime, and it kind of takes this whole like concept of soccer being a team sport and, breaking it down and saying like, all right, it's every man for themselves sort of situation. But I'm here to tell you that while a large stretch and something you'd probably never dream of before, if you're here to develop just strikers, and we're not talking about other positions, there is some validity into the project's foundational concepts. Now, before I dive into those reasons, I will say that my first impressions of Blue Lock were very amazed. Just some of the research that was done into the foundation or the founding of soccer, how soccer first kind of started out, and just like the evolution of soccer in itself and how it's progressed over, I want to say centuries, millennia? I don't know. But soccer has been around for so long, but as an organized sport, it's probably been like a little over a century or close to a century of it being like an actual organized sport. And within that time, the way that soccer has played has changed drastically. Just within the last 20 years of me first picking up soccer to now how soccer is played was not like how I was taught. So like, I think that it's taken into account some of these changes, and it kind of thinks through the methodology and strategies that are adapted today. One of these strategies that you'll note while watching the anime is that they bring all these strikers together, and come to find out, they have to actually play as a team. Now, as you know, in soccer, there are 11 positions on a team on the field. One of them is inclusive of the keeper, and then there's 10 free men roaming on the field. But strikers really only pertain to the men up front, or like hybrid striker positions, which we call wingers, who play at the back but cross into the box, create opportunities, or actually score themselves. I'll try to spare you from all of the soccer knowledge and lessons here, but I think having that core foundational soccer knowledge is really helpful in understanding why Blue Lock makes sense, and why, if Japan came out in like 30 or 40 years and said that this 2022 national team was actually like in a Blue Lock type of project, then I won't be shocked when they come out with that news. But they bring all these strikers to play together, and essentially it creates a lot of chaos at first in the first like 3 or 4 episodes, but they find their footing eventually. And I kind of get a sense as to what's going on here. So the first thing that I'll note that's very real about this is that even though you're a striker, at any given point in time, if you're not holding the ball or your team's not holding the ball, your goal or your position or your responsibility to score has kind of like ceased to exist in the moment. So you kind of need to pitch in vitally. And it's seen throughout soccer today. So there are many soccer players that I guess you could call they're more like defensive strikers or defensive forwards, whichever word that you want to use. So they tend to take on a role where, yes, they're scoring goals, they're doing their job, they're making sure that their team is getting a chance to win the games, because if you don't have goals, you can't win. And they're also taking another tactic as to when the opposing team has the ball, they often play crucial defensive roles. And these defensive roles can sometimes turn into counterattacks, which happens more frequently in soccer today than ever before. I think the number of times that I've seen counterattacks result in goals is more often than just, possession being held by your team and then you scoring an open play, just because you have a lot of dynamic and momentum behind you from the counterattack and you're catching the team off guard. And there are a lot of players, notably players that have helped their teams win the World Cup, that are inclusive on this list. Of players that do this and have won a World Cup, namely France, who won the Russia World Cup in 2018, Antoine Griezmann. Antoine Griezmann is one of the strikers for France's national team, is currently playing in this World Cup and was very pivotal and helpful in helping them secure the cup in 2018. Furthermore, as the show goes on and they talk about what makes this amazing striker, because the whole Blue Lock program starts off as, we're gonna make you the best striker in the world. And then the players that are involved in the project are like, wait, hold on a second though. If you make us the best striker in the world, in order for us to win a World Cup, like the best strikers in the world right now are Messi and Ronaldo. And neither of them have ever won a World Cup in the, I wanna say, 16 years of them competing in World Cups. So it begs to question, like, what does that mean? And I think that if we look at Messi and Ronaldo's playing style, they don't really tend to pitch in when it comes to defensiveness. And again, I'll emphasize that a striker's main role is not to be defensive, but having that versatility or, versatileness? Whatever. Being dynamic enough as a player and being versatile as a player is important to be able to pitch in during those crucial moments, and you're giving your team an additional man to essentially gain the ball back when you're on the defense. It's all strategy at the end of the day, and I think this is part of the Blue Lock project in honing in on these different aspects of strategy that you can have as a striker and tools and weapons that you can add to your pocket. Another reason why Blue Lock is quasi-realistic and makes sense if we were to, let's say, apply it to a real team in real life, wink wink Japan, is that something that's emphasized by the organizer, maybe not the organizer, but the facilitator of the Blue Lock project, Ego, who used to be a player and I guess is now a coach, helping these younger men figure out, how to optimize their skills, is that a good, or not just a good, but an amazing, and some of the best strikers have egos, and they are like egotistical. And I think it's important because, and you may be thinking like, no, because ego turns into ball hogging, which is not productive and can turn into like less opportunities. And yeah, there's that side of the story, but let's just say that if you were like a willingly sharing forward, I think that one, you'd lose your position just because you have other people on the team who are vying for your same position. There's no soccer team that only has like 10 men and maybe like 4 supplementary players. No, it's like 23 to 30 people or even more stacked at times that is constantly vying for your position by training, improving, and doing whatever it takes to be able to be a starter. So that's number one. You need to have the ego to keep your spot. That ego is like a ... to confidence. If you don't have the confidence to do what you're supposed to do, I think in any trade, you're not up to completing the task. It's definitely proven that with more positivity, optimism, and high levels of confidence, we are more successful at what we do, and the same applies to sports. Some of the greatest athletes outside of soccer are egotistical to some extent. Maybe it's not demonstrated openly or outwardly to many extents or to the media, but I think you could see glimpses of it at times, and you can understand why it's such a valuable trait in order for you to be a top striker. Furthermore, as I mentioned, if you just were like dishing out passes and stuff like that, perhaps you're more of like an attacking midfielder or like a winger. But if you're a hardcore striker and intend on being the striker and top goal scorer for your team, you holding that ball and looking for those opportunities are key. Principally, if you're in play and you have an opportunity to pass or score, which do you choose? If it's equally open, you should do it yourself. Having that ego and confidence to ensure that you can do it yourself creates higher statistical chances of you scoring that goal, whereas if you were to pass it, there is definitely a risk in you losing that ball in an interception. So these are things essentially to consider as a striker whenever you're within like the 18 yards or the 6 yards, which is essentially the big box on the soccer field and the little box on the soccer field for those of you who don't follow the metrics of the soccer field. These are some crucial components that people are not normally thinking about, especially if you're kind of playing the game and like playing off instinct. You kind of sometimes learn along the way, and you learn these things through your coach, but do you really think through why your coach is telling you this? So after some critical thought, there's a lot of reason as to why it's really important that strikers have this personality aspect. All that aside though, Bluelock has been one of the most engaging anime for me during this fall and maybe this year in totality. And just the fact that it coincides with the World Cup has been like feeding my excitement for the World Cup more, especially in between knockout rounds. Anytime that you have downtime in between any of these games, I suggest you watch Bluelock if you haven't started watching it yet. It's on Crunchyroll. It's super fun. The animation is stellar. The drawing style is amazing. The intensity makes you want to like go play a sport or play soccer if that's your thing. And like overall, the goal scoring is kind of dope. Yes, unrealistic. You'll never really see that much in soccer, because if you were to see that in soccer, like those are usually like goal of the tournament or goal of the year type of goals. However, it's super fun, amazing anime. Catch it. There's supposed to be 24 episodes of it. And yeah, it'll also hold you until the 2023 Women's World Cup if soccer is your vibe, because we have another World Cup next year and it's still going to be another like 200 days until we get that. But if you're currently watching Bluelock, I hope that my reasons have slightly helped you consider that there's some realism to what's going on there, and I hope you buy into my theory that I think the Bluelock is real, even if it's just for fun. Thanks for sticking with me through all the knowledge on soccer stuff. If soccer is not really your thing, I hope you learned something new today, or you have a new anime to add to your list with some explanation and context behind it. I really hope you enjoyed the content. Please let me know by liking, subscribing, commenting, or sharing with friends. But that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the World Cup. Enjoy the rest of Bluelock, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.